Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Community Relations at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing and digital agency, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship.
We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview the top business leaders in the industry.
Yes, and I'm very excited about the guests that we have today. I was very impressed by them when I met them. We were at a trade show.
Of course.
And, well, what was really cool about them was that not only were they set up professionally at the trade show, you know, sometimes you meet with people at the trade show and it's the salespeople who know the branding and everything. But not only did they have somebody who was an expert at that, but they also had someone who was a content knowledge, like subject matter expert person who, you know, it was very impressive. So we're lucky to have her on the show.
I can't wait to hear.
So our guest today, helping us with business empowerment, is Kristin DeLuca of Bohler. Now, Kristin began her career at Bohler over a decade ago. She's managing projects and overseeing all phases of construction and development. So that's what she does. That's what Bohler does. And Kristin, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Very exciting to be here.
Yeah, same for us. Now, tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get into this?
So I was in high school and had really no idea what I wanted to do in life.
Yep, I've been there.
So one of my favorite math teachers, Miss Purcell, shout out to her. She said, you know, you're really good in math. You enjoy science. Are those things that you like doing? I was like, yeah. She's like, well, my dad was an engineer. Maybe it's something you would want to look into. And I said, well, I don't really even know what it is. What type of engineer was he? She's like, he was a civil engineer. He did like city planning and stuff. So I just started researching it and I was like, this seems cool. Like, you know, solving problems and finding solutions for things. So that's what I started applying colleges for, really not knowing much about it. And I went to Manhattan College and, you know, got into it, really loved it. Graduated from there. I interned at Bohler while I was working there.
Nice.
And then I started working at Bohler right out of college. So I've been there my whole career. So it's really a testament to, you know, what a great place it is to work.
Yeah, that's great. And it's awesome that they had a great internship program for you to get into.
Yeah.
Very, very important. You know, workforce development is a huge issue for Long Island. So,
yes,
you know,
the gateway in.
Yeah.
It's definitely the gateway in. Now, tell us about some of the projects that you've worked on.
So we do land development, but we're really consultants. We team with the owner, the client, the developer to really understand their needs and what their end goal is and what they want to get out of it. So we can take the project from the conceptual stages through building, permitting, conceptual design, the construction of it, and then closing out the project also in the end. The project I'm currently working on is the Belmont Arena project.
Ooh, nice.
Going the new Islanders Arena that's going up at Belmont Park.
Cool.
It's a very high profile project. It's great to be working on, and it's a great team of consultants that we have, that we really all, you know, gel together and come together to just solve problems that, you know, anything that comes up. It's an old site, so there's a lot of underground stuff that we're uncovering, and there's an existing building there that we're trying to make it work together with the, you know, have it all come together as one destination rather than, you know, just an arena at a racetrack.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's interesting. So you work from, sometimes there's nothing there, it's just land.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes it's brand new, you know, a wooded area that we're clearing and we start fresh. And a lot of times, you know, especially on Long Island, you don't get a lot of those fresh sites.
Right.
So we're working, and Manhattan too, you know, and we're working to see what we can build around the existing infrastructure.
Wow.
Is that like your biggest challenge if there's an existing infrastructure, or?
Sometimes it's, you know, the grading of a site that it's 10-foot elevation drop from one side to the other. Do we have to build retaining walls? Can we level it out? We have to worry about accessibility for handicapped people to make sure that, you know, we can provide an accessible site for everybody.
Yeah,
so,
everything must be ADA compliant now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I mean, so many different areas that you have to think of. It really, that's one of the things that to me, it was very stunning because, when you hear the term engineer, you think, oh, okay, they drew up the plans and they did the building. But you don't realize until you really read up on it how many problems there are that you need to solve.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also client driven. They have certain standards that they want to meet, but they have a dollar number. So you really have to. We work with the client. We'll set up meetings and understand right from the beginning what their end game is. Is it saving money? Is it top notch? Presentation at the end, you just want to impress your customers, or is it some balance in between? So we really just have to team up with them and get that end goal.
Now, you've been at Bohler for some time. Like, what are some of the projects that you're most proud of?
I've worked on everything since I've been there for 17 years.
And the time flies, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've done small projects like fast food banks. We did almost all the TD banks on Long Island. I did a bunch of Walgreens, even a nephew.
Yes.
But some of the bigger ones, the Lifetime in Garden City was a really fun project. That was cool. Also an existing building that we knocked down completely, but you still found a lot of stuff that you had to work around. And that was trying to fit a lot of parking into a small space. And very high-end finishes there. So that was one of the clients that doesn't take no for an answer to anything.
Yes. So I'm very familiar with the people involved there. And I don't even know what to call it. It's like a compound. There's so much there.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
And just recently we opened the YMCA in Huntington, and it was great to be a part of that project, a little bit more on the public side and giving back to the community. Because Bohler's a lot about that also. We're very involved in charities and giving back to the community.
Yeah, and that makes such a difference. We mentioned the internship before, the culture of the company. When I met you and your associate Melissa, it seemed you could just tell you were happy to be there.
Yeah.
And that comes across genuinely. It's not something you can fake.
It does. And our company actually just went through a rebranding. And it started about 2 years ago when the leaders of the company got together and said, how can we focus on our employees and our clients and understand what Bohler is all about and really categorize that. So there was a lot of research that went into it and interviewing staff and clients to get feedback. And it was really interesting because the feedback that we got was what our culture was. It just helped us to define it. It had been that. It's not like we decided to change a culture or go a different direction. We realized that, that is what we are, that we empower people to become accomplished. And we provide those opportunities, whether it's for a client or for staff.
And that's an amazing attitude to have towards, and again, kudos to them for thinking of speaking to their existing client base, speaking to their employees to make sure that they were on board, and it makes sense. And I'm very familiar with that. We went through that with moving from NEFCU to Jovia. It really was just wrapping our head around the mission that we're there to be there for the community and to be there for the educators and to expand those benefits. It's very important that you think about those things when you're rebranding, and so it seems that you've done a great job at that. Now, what would you say is your differentiator? Because there are lots of engineering firms. There's a lot of development on Long Island. What would you say is one of your differentiators? I
would say that we partner with our clients and that we challenge the status quo. We don't just accept the norm as the norm. We look beyond the task at hand. We look to find creative solutions.
Gotcha.
So we're not just an engineering firm that's going to do the design and pass off the drawings to you. We're going to work with you and find the creative solution that's going to get the best project.
Be a bit more innovative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very important. You are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Kristin DeLuca of Bohler. Tell us a little bit more about some of the impact that Bohler's made. You mentioned, obviously, you're doing a lot of work within the community with YMCA. What other type of work have you done in that arena?
Well, we every year do the Alzheimer's Walk, and we raise money for that, which is I'm very happy to be a part of because my father suffered from that and had passed away a few years ago. So that's
so
a personal, cause for me that I feel very strongly, and I'm glad that Bohler is behind that. We also, my boss, Joe Deal, is very involved with the Kids for Kids Foundation, and they hold a gala at Ohika Castle every year. So those are a couple of the charities. And then internally in Bohler, I'm involved in the Women in Engineering group, and I'm one of the founders of that. And it's taken off in the past couple of years, and we're really trying to grow it throughout the company, and just empower more women in the industry and within Bohler, because it definitely is hard to be a woman working in a man's field.
Yes.
Even though it's come a long way, it's still very male-dominated.
Oh, yes. And I would say the same thing about banking. It's funny, most of my bosses have actually been female. And I'm in a house with, my wife and 3 daughters. So my world is very different from the status quo.
Yeah. My husband feels your pain, as I'm in the same scenario.
You have daughters?
3 of them as well.
3 of them as well. Yes, we talked about that. That's right.
And the dog even.
Yes. Well, at least I have 2 male dogs, but that's just, more things for me to take care of. But, I think that's great because, that's one of the things that I think about as a father is, what choices are my daughters going to have, and I want them to have that. So, again, I think that's a fantastic accomplishment of yours and of Bohler's.
What do you think is the gateway into engineering? Is it internships, or
question.
If there's a...
I think if you're looking at going into engineering, speak with people in the field. There's a lot of different areas that you can go into. So doing internships while you're in school really helps you to understand which field you want to go into. If you want to be more on the technical, structural side of civil engineering, if you're in electrical, do you want to go towards computer, or do you want to go, more into the field working in construction? There's such a wide array of areas that you can go into in engineering, and an internship is such an important part of it.
Oh, great. And how is technology really helping engineers to evolve?
100%. Everything is digital. Obviously we still need printed plans and everything, but the design work that we do with Civil 3D, AutoCAD, everything was drafting not that long ago by hand. And now, it's just so interesting how you can create a model on the computer and, you decide you want to change something and you make a change and it can ripple effects, change the whole model for you. Obviously, there's still design aspects to it, but it gives you a lot more opportunity
Cuts down the
see
time.
The big picture. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy what you can do with the 3D printers.
Yeah.
So it's something that you would draw up now with iPad technology and with all the programming. To me, it's just overwhelming. I wouldn't even know where to start. So how do you start when you're looking at a project? What's kind of like your day-to-day look like when you're working with your clients?
Well, like I said, first we team up with them to understand what their goal is. That's probably the most important part as a project manager for me to understand and pass on to my team, so that we know, we're working on a design, but we're really working towards a goal of what our client wants to see. And if they don't know, we help them to get there. We give them options, and, with civil engineering, it's not like a direct formula for anything. Yeah. There's options. So it's a lot of conceptual phase to begin with. Yeah. And then once we have something laid out and in agreement, well, then we get into the down and dirty design and figure out where the utilities are going and how we're going to put drainage into the ground and stuff like that. So,
and I know we mentioned some of the projects that you worked on, but just from a revenue standpoint, for some of our listeners out there, are they in the millions? Are they in the 10 millions?
Yeah,
100 million?
We range from projects in the millions up to the Belmont Arena is $1 billion project with the retail and hotel, all inclusive. It's going to be a huge development.
And as an Islander fan, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll have to try to score you some gear.
Well, we're the official credit union of the Islanders too. I got to work on that.
Yeah. So, and then everything in between too. I worked on the Stop and Shop account for years. Mostly now they're just doing some redevelopment they had bought out King Cullen, so they're redeveloping some of those as interior renovations, so not as much to do on the outside, but it's fun when you drive around and you can actually see the things that you worked on. I pointed out to my kids, and like they'll see a construction site and they're like, "Mommy, did you design that? Is that your project?" You know, so they'll
cool.
brag to their friends about it.
Oh, I love it.
Even if it's like a Starbucks. My mom built that Starbucks.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's got to get you some street cred.
Yeah. At least to my, 5-year-old.
Yeah,
That's the most important person, actually.
You hit it. Yeah,
It is.
100%.
And it's great being a role model to my girls. So I take pride in that.
Yes.
Cool. So now, when you look in the news, you hear like retail is dead. How are you guys kind of like combating that theory?
It's actually
That's a tough one.
the day I met Ray, I was on a panel discussing the changing landscape of retail. And it comes down to the retailer has to embrace the experience. A lot of the retailers that are going out of business just didn't understand how to align with the online experience or have a personal experience in the store. There was a statistic that once you have a brick and mortar store, your internet sales go up by 30% within that area. So it's important to have a place where someone can go and touch and feel and see the products, even if they're not buying it in that store. So it's really just the retailers that have learned to embrace that and who have provided an experience.
Yeah, when you walk in the store now, it's when you go to a Starbucks, it's the the blogger or the cyber cafes that has really taken on life. So has that changed your your scope of work?
Absolutely.
A lot now?
I've worked on many of the malls on Long Island, and it used to be just obviously a lot of retailers with the support of some restaurants, and now you see the entertainment and the restaurants driving it with the support of some retailers. So a lot of big boxes go out, and then we put in a Dave & Buster's in a round one rather than putting in more retail. So you drive the people there with the entertainment and hope that they stick around for the retail, whereas before it was you were driving everyone there for the shopping and hoping they would stick around for the experiences of the restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, for everyone that says that retail is dead or dying, to me, it's not. It's just evolving.
Absolutely, I
agree. It's evolving, 100%. Because, I mean, I was in Roosevelt Field, over the holidays, and no shortage of people there.
Right.
I was there last week. I'm waiting for people to finish their shopping. I'm sitting in the massage chairs outside Macy's, and plenty of people walking around. It's not a ghost town if it's done right.
It's about the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It seems like you guys understand that. You get that. You're building that into your design.
Absolutely.
Well, and it is pretty amazing because if you think about it, like the Apple Store, that's a huge store. But there's not much product in it.
Nope. It's all about the customer service, about the gadgets that you get to play with, but you're not usually bringing something home from there necessarily.
No. And, it's an experience that helps the other stores in the mall because what do? You walk in, they tell you they're going to call you on your cell phone when they're ready for you.
Yep.
So then I'm wandering around. I go to Newbury Comics, much to my wife's chagrin.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Of course.
Yes. I spend more money than I thought, and then I go back. But that, you hit it on the head. I really think it's just we've got to be innovative in our thinking for what type of development is needed to support the retail.
Yeah.
Now, switching gears a little bit. So, obviously, I mean, you've been doing what you're doing for a long time. Since before you were doing it professionally, even, you were growing your knowledge in that area, and you're also considered an expert when it comes to being a subject matter expert and an expert witness. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about your role there?
Sure. We have to go in front of boards for many municipalities in order to get projects approved, whether it's we need a special permit for the use that we're putting in or a variance for parking or setbacks to the building.
Okay.
And in order for the boards to approve that application, they want to understand that it's not going to have an impact on the community, and that it's going to have a benefit for the community. So we have to provide the engineering facts that say this is why it's going to work, but we also have to take into account that there's a community benefit and how people are going to impact, how that's going to impact them. And many times that's, you do get community opposition on all different kinds of projects. Even banks, you would think that's one of the friendliest, but it's a drive-through, and they might hear the teller, goodness. So microphone. So we have to prove that the decibel level is not going to impact the residential neighbors, and maybe it means putting up a higher fence or some additional landscaping. But finding the solutions to make sure that the customer is happy, the neighbors are happy, and the town is happy.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College. Today our guest is Kristin DeLuca of Bohler. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on 90.3 WHPC.
Now, with those, some of those businesses in mind, which are the ones that the communities tend to be more open to? Is there a type of business?
It really depends. We have a project right now that it was a senior living, and typically you would think that people would be open to it.
Yeah.
But the community is not happy because they think it's going to bring a lot of traffic into the area.
Yeah, okay. Transient effect.
Just a transient effect. Yeah. And that, the building's a little bit closer to properties than anything on the property was before. So sometimes it's surprising. You know the ones that people, the restaurants with a drive-through, the 7-Eleven convenience stores, because people just have a bad taste in their mouth that they think it's going to, bring people hanging out in the parking lot. So you always get those, and the big box developments that are potentially going to hurt local businesses. You'll get people who come out in opposition of that, but it really just depends on the community and what they're looking for there.
Yeah. No, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense.
I remember buying my home. It was like, do we have a single mailbox or the multi-mailbox? I was like, oh my gosh, like it's really deep. So do you only work in commercial real estate, or do you do residential as well?
We do not like single-family residential that often, but we'll do multifamily residential, housing developments. We have 27 offices up and down the East Coast and into Texas.
Oh, wow.
So we span a wide area, and although on Long Island, you don't get these big, expansive sites very often, in a lot of other areas, we are working on like much bigger subdivision developments and multi-use projects, as we do here sometimes as well.
Now, I know this is probably a hard question. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of projects that you work on that you're very proud of. Is there anyone that stands to mind that you're like, you know what, I'm really proud of this project, and why?
The Stop and Shop that we built in Hampton Bays. It was early on in my career at Bohler. It had been very contentious with the town. There was a lawsuit, but it came down to the Stop and Shop was going to get built at a much smaller footprint than what they wanted. But we had to work very closely with the town. It was one of the first projects that I worked on that took lead components into consideration. We designed an irrigation system that harvested rainwater and used that for the landscaping irrigation. We had to look at energy efficient lights and take into account dark sky compliance, which was now it's very common to hear that terminology, and then it was very...
I apologize. I'm a neophyte. What does that mean?
So you don't want these bright lights to take away from your stargazing, basically, right? You don't want to light up the sky and ruin that experience. And out east, Nassau County, forget it. We're far gone. But out east, they still were looking to preserve that. And the communities, I kind of joke, but the communities in Nassau County are also implementing the dark sky compliance now, but and they have been for years. But that project was one of the first that was very stringent, and the code had just been adopted out in Southampton. So we had to work closely to make sure that the lights that we were proposing didn't have any spillage up into the sky, very concentrated. But then as a civil engineer, we still have to worry about protection and safety. So how do we make sure that parking lot is lit enough for safety, but not disrupting the community around it? So there was a lot of interesting, and even the trees that we planted there, we had to use special soil that Cornell University had come out with for city plantings, basically. Like what you see in the city, a tree planted underneath a sidewalk just in a little tree pit. They have special soil that allows it to grow better there. And it was my first experience getting into that. So it was a lot of firsts for me, and it was a long project that we had a lot of presentations to the boards out in Southampton. And we had a really great team of people working on it. And when it finally got built, it was like this, we finally got it done, and it looked great, and
that's cool.
It was environmentally friendly, so it was cool.
Well, yeah, and that's got to affect everything now. Obviously, there's such a concern about what we're doing with the environment, and obviously the workforce that's being developed now, that's one of their primary concerns. So what sort of things, and you mentioned a few of them already, but what sort of things are you doing to kind of accommodate for that?
The sanitary systems are a big thing. In Suffolk County, there's not sewers very often.
I feel like every HIA meeting I go to is always a discussion about the sewer systems.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
How we're going to treat that and how we can make that better and protect groundwater. The drainage that we're putting into the ground, Long Island, luckily, we have this great sandy soil that we don't have to worry about building retention ponds on our sites. We can put it all underground and let it leach into the soils, but we have to make sure that that's not disrupting our environment and that we're protecting the water from contaminants before it leaches in. So we're looking at pre-treatment and how we can clean the water before it gets into the ground.
That's great. So the waterfronts in New York City are really being developed. Industry City is booming, Dumbo, you name Williamsburg, you name it. Do you see a tide turning here in Long Island? Do you see that happening?
You see it in downtown villages with revitalization, definitely. Patchogue, did an amazing rebuild recently. Babylon Village, you see Farmingdale. Hicksville's looking into a downtown revitalization now. It focuses a lot on transient-oriented development. Mm-hmm. And you definitely see a big focus on that with bringing together residential, retail, and experiences.
Do you think the fact that we're a peninsula, does that have any, there's no drive-through traffic, people are not going anywhere. They're going to the Hamptons and that's it. Whereas other states that you may have businesses or developing businesses, there is drive-through, so you see more development, or...
I don't see that hurting us. I think there's plenty of attractions everywhere on Long Island that you see enough foot traffic everywhere. So I don't think that's something that's going to hurt us.
Thankfully, yeah. I mean, there's so much to do. Every time I get frustrated with the traffic, I think, it's here for a reason. People want to be here for lots of things. So what is maybe the one thought you'd like to leave our listener with? And please also tell me what your contact information is so that people can get a hold of you.
Sure. I think my most important thing to tell everyone is no matter what you're trying to accomplish, if you're going into a meeting or you're sitting down with someone to have a conversation, figure out what your goal is, what the intention of that meeting or conversation is, and understand what each of you want to get out of it, so that you can come to a creative solution.
Sage advice.
Yes,
with
indeed.
everything, I think.
Thank you.
Please give me your contact information.
Sure. Kristin DeLuca of Bohler. I can be reached at KDeluca, so it's KDELUCA at BOHLERENG.com.
And what's your website?
BohlerEngineering.com.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Thank you. We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcast, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.